This is peace, power, and purpose 360.
Good evening. Welcome to Peace, Power, and Purpose 360 Degrees. It's a PPP 360 podcast. And here, I just wanted to welcome you to our podcast tonight. Here, we're not just talking, but we are actually here where we are aligning your mind, strengthening your body, and growing your spirit. We're not just talking, but we are really trying to lead you to a complete life alignment. And this is to help the whole you, not just part of you, because, we know that people are going through a lot of challenges today. And, you see people with plenty of money that just can't find happiness. They can't find peace. But this is all about aligning your whole being up to a positive direction and then move safely as you are capable of doing so that you can live your best life in the midst of all of this chaos that's going on. So we want to help you. So we want to talk about peace. We want to talk about power. We want to talk about purpose. My name is David Alexander III. I'm a retired police chief. I am an active pastor in the community. I've worked in the community. I've done some things with community organizing. I've done community policing. I've done all types of community turnaround. I've dealt with people in various capacities, counseling, mentoring, you name it. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a definitely brother and good friend to a lot of people. So we want to help the whole man, the whole humanity today live that best life. And so when we talk about peace, power, and purpose, we want to talk about these things in a way that's going to help you more ways than one. I've had some experiences on my own, and some of these lessons I've learned the hard way, and I really want to be able to help people, if at all possible, avoid some of the mistakes or bad decisions I made. I look at young people, the younger generation today. There's a lot of lost knowledge that have gone down into the ground. And, we've allowed those golden nuggets that could help us survive, help us to realign our lives, help us to transition from one turbulent time to another. I look at how we just lost a lot of opportunities in the previous generations to capture what it really means to be resilient, what it really means to be scalable, what it really means to adapt, adjust, and overcome the obstacles that we face in life. COVID brought about a big change, and a lot of people have yet to reset from COVID. There are people still having a lot of psychological, physiological, and even spiritual challenges trying to get right back on track following the pandemic of COVID. So we really need to talk about this. This is something just bigger than a podcast. This is actually a movement, and we want you and those you care about to get involved in this movement, because I'm telling you, it's going to help you more ways than one. And we're going to eventually bring on a lot of guests that's going to be able to help us have real conversations about the issue of peace, power, and purpose. And my vision for this podcast is for it to become a 1 hour long live, where we talk live with our guests, we talk live with our audience, and they can share information. And really, let's talk realistically about what works and what doesn't work, what's theory and what's actual good practices. Because talk is cheap, but if you can't take action, if you can't put it to practice, you're not going to be able to help yourself, and you're not going to be able to help anybody else. So it's all about not only living our best lives, but helping others to be able to live their best life regardless of the circumstances. So when we talk about peace, we're really talking about your mental health, your mental well-being, being as mentally well as you possibly can. I've participated in podcasts talking about wellness. I remember as a former chief of police, wellness was part of my plan. I've worked on initiatives statewide, trauma-informed care, where we talked about the effects of trauma throughout the lifetime of people. And you know what? It's some interesting conversations I've had. I've watched people live out their childhood trauma and how it has disrupted their adult lives. Some of them can't have reasonable and healthy relationships with others because they can't get over that 30-second, that 15-second video that left them scarred for the rest of their life. So we are talking about mental wellness. We're talking about being calm. A lot of times, man, you run into people and they're all tensed up, and all it takes is for you to look at them wrong and they explode because they're not able to remain calm while everything else in life seems to be so chaotic, while everything else seems to be beyond your ability to bring it back into focus. You want to be able to remain calm because in the calmness of your disposition, you're able to grab power that you really didn't know you had. You're able to go back and recall information that may have been shared on this podcast or shared with a good friend that can help you get yourself back on track. And now you begin to move in power. You begin to move in purpose because now there's a reason why you walking the way you walk. There's a reason why you're talking the way you talk. There's a reason why you're going in the direction that you're going because you found peace, you found power, and you found purpose. And we're also talking about healing. When I talk about trauma, how people need to heal from the inside as well as outwardly. It's one thing to be physically hurt, but a lot of times our physical healing starts with our mental healing. You got to heal inside as a person. You got to realize that you are valuable and that there's something that you can bring to the table, even if it's nothing but the golden nuggets learned from the horrible things you've been through. How many times have you heard people that are successful financially, successful spiritually, successful physically? They came from some horrible beginnings, some horrible backgrounds, but it's not all to naught. You can help somebody today. Even if you're up in age where you think you're living your last days, you can help somebody live a better life, and you can enjoy the fact that you're able to do that. It's all about life fulfillment. It's all about being your complete self. And it requires you to first of all, be able to heal from the inside out. Finding peace in your home. How many times have you heard about people that don't even want to go home because there's no peace in the home? There's no peace in relationships between husband and wife, between children and parents, between siblings. Those are some of the places where it's hard to find, peace. Finding peace in your finances. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have peace, you don't even know how to use the money. You don't know how to make the money work for you instead of you work for the money. So you got to find peace. You got to have some things that's going to help you be financially sound, make good, sound financial decisions. And I'm telling you, I run into people all the time, man, that they got it. They've experienced it. They know where you are, but they can help you. So we want to bring people like that to this podcast so that our listening audience can benefit from it. We want also you to find peace in your personal life. I'm going to tell you something. If I looked at the news as often as some people look at the news, I would be in constant stress, a stressful mindset, always on edge. And life is too short for you to walk around on edge and live on edge. Everything is, you got to be defensive or you got to be aggressive. No, man, you need to find peace so that even in your public life, you can enjoy the simple things like the rising of the sunshine, the beautiful sunshine day, speaking to people who are really, all they want to do is be able to live their good life too. And if they can say something to uplift you or you can say something to uplift them, we just feed off each other. Man, there's plenty of people around in this world that wants to live a good life just like you do. But you got to start aligning yourself with people that can help you live better. I used to hear old folks say you got to be careful who you run with. And that's true. You know why? Because you're going to either influence who you're running with or they're going to influence you. So it's all about really aligning your life, your strategies, that you can find peace in a world where there's very little peace, or peace in a world where people are experiencing hardships trying to find peace. It's not as hard as you think, but then sometimes you just got to change the way you think. I say a lot of times in church, if you can just change the way you think, you can change the way you live your life. And I'm just telling you There's a lot of opportunities out here. There's a lot of great conversations that we can have once we can find peace. You know, I heard someone quote today, and they said this, that the only thing they ever lost and needed back was themselves. You know, finding peace is a critical today to our survival. You know, it's going to be hard for you to survive if you can't find peace. It's going to be hard for you to strategically navigate through the challenges that life has to offer if you can't first find peace. So sometimes we got to go back to what I've heard people refer to as the 3 R's. You got to regulate. You got to learn how to self-regulate. And then you got to learn how to redirect, refocus your attention to what's really important. What are you trying to get accomplished hour by hour, minute by minute, day by day? What are we trying to do? You got to sometimes redirect your attention back to the focal point. And then you got to look at resolution. Thinking the right things, having the right information is no good if you don't put it into action plan. So you got to go and you got to make resolution. You got to bring it to a resolution. You got to put them action plans, them action steps to an action plan where now it's goal attainment. It's about reaching those goals, small goals that tie into bigger goals. And you find yourself now, you're more confident. You know, you're at peace. You know how to operate. You know how to navigate throughout your own life. Sometimes this is all about finding out who the real you is all about. Sometimes we don't understand why we think the way we think or we do the things we do. But you know what? They say if you keep doing the same things you've always done, you'll keep getting the same results that you've always gotten. So this podcast is about helping you 360 degrees, bring your life into a full circle, bring your life into a full transformation. And it can happen. It can happen through dialogue. It can happen through interaction. It can happen by just raising your awareness and being empowered with the knowledge. And that knowledge brings you strength, confidence you never thought you had that can move you to a purpose. Man, when you start walking in your purpose, I mean, you start seeing people who now you become a threat to someone because now you're no longer bound in that old mindset. You're no longer bound to the harsh words or the mentality they fed you with. It's time for you to know who the real you are. And I believe you can find that right here at Peace, Power, and Purpose 360. So come on, hang out with us. You know, we're just getting started, but I think this is something you can share with your friends. And you're going to find that, man, not only are we going to bring information to you, but we want to get feedback from you, you know, because iron sharpens iron. There's so many golden nuggets that are still right here in our community. Man, let me tell you something. Do you know you hear people say, oh, you need to drink plenty of water. Do you know you need to drink plenty of quality water? But when I say plenty, that doesn't mean gallons. You know what? You can drink 4 ounces at a time and do better justice to your body than drinking 120 ounces over, you know, just mega loading yourself. First of all, you're going to overload your bladder. But there's information floating around that help you physically to heal, that help you physically overcome some challenges that you might have in your health. And believe me, health and mentality, mental wellness, it goes hand in hand. Sometimes reducing the toxic activity in your body reduces some of the mental issues that you might find yourself challenged with. But again, talking about all of the issues, talking about the natural herbs and minerals on this good green earth that was intended to help us live better. You know, when you know better, you can definitely do better. And what I'm saying, I'm not telling you something I think, I'm telling you something I know. And sometimes get in and learn how to invest in yourself, invest in your own well-being. You know, it's the pivotal move that you can make to bring about a better life. And I'm not just telling you things that somebody told me. I'm telling you things I've already tried. You know, I've gone through the last 24 months a lot of physical challenges, a lot of health challenges, but I've also gone through a lot of mental challenges that makes you want to give up, mental challenges that make you want to just throw in the towel, mental challenges that make you think nobody's listening or even nobody cares. But you know what I found out? You got to be careful who you're listening to, because there's a spirit of evil out there that'll tell you you're wasting your time. But there's a spirit of truth out there that says, hey, look, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. That's why you got to be careful who you listen to. I'm not just telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know. And I put a lot of this stuff to practice. I've gone from 240 in weight to 208. And everybody's weight loss don't have to be chaotic, but you do have to have a made up mind that that's what you want to do. I've gone from a lot of aches and pains to now I feel them every now and then just to make me know I'm still human. That's a part of life. No matter you're young or old, everybody's going to experience pain. But how we choose to manage our pain determines whether life gets better or whether life gets worse. It's your choice. Tune in with us here at Peace, Power, and Purpose. 360 degrees. I'm looking for you to follow me and work with me, and we can take this journey together. Peace out.
This is Peace, Power, and Purpose 360.